Today I'm going to show you one of the hidden secrets behind Jimmy Page's lead playing. It's a trick that makes his solos feel hypnotic and unpredictable and just kind of full of swagger. And it's a really simple idea and it's actually really easy to play, but you'll hear it all over his playing. So let's break it down. So this is one of the live versions of him playing. He plays it slightly differently than the record. Check out the repeating little motif that he plays right here. Okay, so that little lick right there, can you hear how that kind of lick has this sort of sound like it's kind of tumbling forward and it keeps kind of changing. It's like kind of chasing the beat and it's kind of locking into it, but it's also kind of slippery and kind of all over the place. It's just part of the signature swagger of Jimmy Page's playing. And it all comes down to these really simple 3-note pattern that he plays. Like, let me just kind of play the solo real quick. So that's the idea there. So he plays it slightly differently than the record. It's this little lick that he plays. I'll slow it down for you. So what that lick is it kind of sounds like it keeps moving. It sort of sounds like this. It sounds like it keeps moving with this repeating pattern. And the reason is because instead of fitting neatly inside a 4/4 measure, it spans across 1.5 beats. And this is one of the big secrets to a lot of kind of rock licks, is they get this kind of rolling feeling or this off-kilter feeling. Technically, it's what's called rhythmic displacement. So the idea is it's a 6-note pattern like this. And then if you counted that out, it'd be 1 E and 2 E. And then it just repeats that pattern again, right? You're in the minor pentatonic scale here, pattern 2. It's this little pattern here. And he's just playing these 3 notes over and over again. And what he's doing is he's doing a pick-pick-pull, which is a pattern that he does a lot, where he picks a note, picks another note, and then does a pull-off. So it gives it an accent like that. And then he's rocking back to the 3rd string. So he does a pick-pick-pull, and then a skip. So it's like this. It's 6 notes, 1 E and 2 E, like that. And then sometimes when he's playing at this last note, the 6th note, it's kind of ghosted. So it sounds like this. So it sounds like 5 notes. So when you play that lick over and again, every time you play it, it sounds like it's changing because it begins either on the downbeat or the next time you play it, it begins on the upbeat, and it alternates like that. So it creates this kind of like displacement where it sounds like it's constantly moving. So this is one of the things that gives Page that kind of elusive, slippery quality. It almost feels like this kind of looseness, but it's what makes it really feel alive and not like you're kind of repeating this thing mechanically. And you can find these all over the neck of the guitar. It just falls really nicely under your fingertips, right? So basically, if you take the pentatonic scales, you can just kind of walk up through it like this. So there's these little 3-note patterns, right? Right here, right here, right here, right here. It's really cool on the 3rd string and the 2nd string because it's you can use 3 fingers to do it. So there's the pattern. And you can use that kind of idea. Now, if you think about it, there's basically, with this idea, there's 3 basic shapes. There's a step where you either step up or step down. And then there's a skip where you're skipping a note of the scale and you skip up or skip down. And then he does hammers and pulls between the notes as well. So you can either do a step, a skip, or a hammer pull. You know, if you look at that lick, he's starting with the hammer pull, the pick, pick, pull. And then he does a skip. He does that 3 times. And then the last time he resolves it with a step and then slides back into the lick. Now you can do this all over the neck. Once you know these little run shapes, you can create endless variations by looping it forwards and backwards and turning it inside out. Like, for example, So one of the things he's doing is what's called curved flattening of the finger, which is when you're in the middle section here, you can take your third finger and flatten it across the strings to create that skip. So you go like that. So you just flatten that finger like that and it creates a killer sound. You know, he does that all the time. So it has that cool intervallic sound. And you can play that all over the neck. So you've probably seen licks like this before, but when you combine those two things of taking those little three-note patterns and that technique of skipping and stepping and doing the pull-offs, using that pattern and moving it around, you can take that simple pattern and it becomes something really fresh and interesting when you add that rhythmic idea, that rhythmic displacement of playing essentially 6-note licks, or a lick that's 1.5 beats long. You have endless fun with it. So how do you incorporate this in your playing? So start by just kind of finding those little 3-note patterns, and then you put that rhythmic displacement over it by playing 6 16th notes, 1 E and 2 E, like that. So that when you play it again, it starts on the and of the next beat. And then you can do that, you can move that around. And you can create those cool Jimmy Page slippery licks. And then once you get comfortable with it, then you can just start to incorporate it in your solos, just like Jimmy's doing there, where you've got a specific melody. You notice how he actually just puts that curve flattening of the finger there. Kind of gives it that kind of stutter, like it's rolling over itself. You take your melody there, and then it's a great way of building that tension where you kind of put those repeating licks in there. Most importantly, don't be afraid to be loose with it. This isn't about rigid precision. It's about attitude and flow and movement. And Jimmy Page, part of his kind of signature ethos of playing was he wasn't a sloppy player. He was a session player, and he played on so many records. He was an amazing player. I mean, the fact that he could keep up with John Bonham is incredible. But he played with swagger, and he played with that kind of rock and roll attitude. So the power of this simple trick is it's just that 1.5 beat repeating motif, 6 notes, or it could be 5 notes with that last ghosted note. And you hear this all over the place in rock and roll music. So try it out and experiment with it and make it your own, and let me know what are your favorite Jimmy Page licks. And if you enjoyed this, give us a subscribe, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And remember, turn it up.